10,000 years ago, the human brain had one very simple job: keep you alive. From morning till night, our ancestors spent their days looking for food, searching for water, finding shelter, and avoiding large animals and other kinds of dangers. Move forward 10,000 years, our brain has many more things to do. Finding food and water and shelter is a simple task. Much harder is becoming prepared to be a functional adult, learning how to problem solve, learning a job and the social requirements of our society. Children today in school no longer are successful if they can just memorize math and spelling and reading. To be successful, children need to learn to problem solve, to pay attention to details, to plan, to control their emotions, to know when to start, to know how to finish. All of these abilities come at a price. They don't come in a computer program, they don't come in a book, they come from the day in and day out experiences children have. Unfortunately, not all children find it easy to develop these abilities. Unfortunately, not all children find success in the classroom, on the playground, or with their families. But we have learned that we can better understand how to help children. We can learn to unlock the potential of their brains and to make them smarter, to make them problem solve better, to help them think more clearly, to plan, to organize, and most importantly, to be successful in the world that we are creating for them. Nesplora is a pioneer in creating tools to first understand and to second unlock the potential of the brain. Nesplora is the future of assessment for children and for adults. To understand the brain, you have to watch and observe how it works. You have to measure how it processes. Nesplora has developed virtual reality products to help us understand the brain, but most importantly, to help us understand how to shape and train and develop good brains. Virtual reality affords clinicians and educators an opportunity to help children learn in the real world. When I trained as a psychologist, they taught me to give tests. Children didn't always like them. They taught me to give parents and teachers and children questionnaires, asking them about themselves. No one really liked filling them out. Today's assessment has moved into a new area. Today we evaluate in the virtual environment, and in doing so, we provide not only understanding and insight, but a motivating environment that children and adults find not only enjoyable, but are willing to complete to the best of their abilities. A continuous performance test, or a CPT, evaluates behavior on an ongoing basis. Rather than asking one question, waiting and asking another, a continuous performance test runs the clock continuously. All kinds of tasks can be completed with a continuous performance test. At Nesplora, we have developed a continuous performance test that measures a variety of important human behaviors. How well someone pays attention, how well they organize information, even how well they keep their eyes and their minds focused on a particular stimulus, such as a teacher or a fish in an aquarium. We learn how the brain works. We learn how individuals orient and decide what to pay attention to and how to respond to whatever it is they're paying attention to accurately. The first continuous performance tests were used to measure schizophrenia. Then a number of researchers decided that they could measure other populations, particularly individuals experiencing difficulty paying attention for longer periods of time. The 1-9 continuous performance test, that is, watch for numbers appearing on the screen. When you see the 1, be ready. When the 9 comes next, was the first standardized continuous performance test. The original tests were completed on mechanical wheels, then slides, then with the advent of technology, the continuous performance test moved into the virtual world. Today at Nesplora, we are creating continuous performance tests in a virtual environment, as close to the real world as possible, yet within an environment that allows us to observe, measure, and most importantly, understand human behavior. It's just as it sounds. It's our efforts to take the real three-dimensional world and move it into an electronic medium where behavior can be best measured. Children love virtual reality. When children come into my office and I tell them that one of the things we're going to do today is virtual reality, their eyes light up, they sit right down and ask, what do they need to do before we do the virtual reality? This is a test for me, but for many children, a reward or a reinforcement. They actually work hardest in the virtual reality environment, which is why at Nesplora we are creating more instruments to measure all kinds of children's behavior and all aspects of development. The first tests making an effort to identify problems that people with poor self-discipline or impulse control difficulty or challenges paying attention. Many of the problems people with ADHD experience, but also experienced by people with depression and anxiety, and even the aging problems related to Alzheimer's and dementia. Those first tasks were completed face-to-face with paper and pencil. People were asked to complete mazes or connect numbers. We made efforts to try and identify and understand weaknesses without really understanding what we were measuring or how to best measure it. With the advent of technology, we've come to understand that we can more efficiently and effectively define and identify problems with attention, with impulse control, with excessive motor movement, with difficulty following instructions and completing tasks. The virtual environment offers a new platform, a new frontier to better understand, evaluate, and intervene or treat people with attention and related problem. Before Aula, the CPTs were two-dimensional on a computer screen and required the children to complete a boring, repetitive, uninteresting task with minimal, if any, reinforcement. Watch the screen, push when you see an X. Watch the screen, push when you see a 1. Don't push when you see a 9. These were not particularly interesting tasks, and part of the reason we proposed them is because we thought that children who had trouble staying focused would bore easily and fail at these tasks. But the best place to understand and measure attention is in the real world. And for children, that real world is comprised of the classroom. And so Nesplora has created a virtual classroom, a place in which we can observe and understand and evaluate children's efficiency, the way children pay attention, manage their impulses, and follow directions in a classroom environment. As such, Aula affords evaluators the opportunity to see children in a virtual world, a world that is as close as possible to the classroom out in the community. Children are not computers. They don't program. They don't all learn at the same rate or demonstrate their knowledge in the same way. In collecting data for our continuous performance tests, we've come to understand there's a wide variation in the efficiency with which children operate in a classroom. At Nesplora, it is our goal to help teachers understand, support, and develop every student's capacity to pay attention effectively, to complete problems, to organize themselves in the classroom. The virtual reality environment offers the opportunity to better understand every student and to create a school setting in which teachers not only teach reading and spelling and math, but also teach students how to plan, organize, pay attention, and succeed at the challenges they're faced with. Shall we put adults back into the classroom? I don't want to go back into school. I finished school a long time ago. Most adults probably would not be happy if their virtual environment was similar to what we created at Nesplora for children. And so we've created the aquarium. The aquarium is as it sounds, a place with colored fish, a place that requires the adult to pay attention, to divide attention, to listen and say, to listen and see, to see and say, to see and see. The aquarium provides the opportunity to measure attentional processes within sensory modality, as in hearing and seeing, and across sensory modality, hearing and seeing, or seeing and hearing. At Nesplora, it is our belief that the aquarium continuous performance test will not only help identify adults suffering from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but will allow us to observe and define and understand attentional processes in adults with a broad range of challenges, including psychiatric disorders like anxiety and depression, as well as traumatic disorders such as brain injury, or progressive genetic disorders such as multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's disease. We've also collected data on adults over the age of 60, an age at which many adults begin to experience cognitive problems. The aquarium will help clinicians identify whether the attention and concentration problems reported by, say, a 70-year-old patient is abnormal and perhaps reflects some aging process or some disability, or reflects the normal aging processes of our species. Two children take a math test. The teacher knows that both of them understand the same amount of math. The teacher then grades the math test. One child receives an A, the other child receives a B, yet both children knew the same math. So the teacher asks the first child, the child who received the B, "How did you take the test?" And the child explains that he started with the first question and did every question in order until he completed the test. Then the teacher asks the second child, "How did you take the test?" And the second child tells the teacher, "My papa told me I should do all the easy problems first." And in doing so, this child demonstrated that success on tests or in the classroom or in life is not just based on what you know, but based on what you do with what you know. Executive function has become a term that's now used to explain the strategies that we use to do the things that are required of us. Executive function explains how you do what you do. And we now know from a very large and growing body of research that executive function, behaviors such as paying attention to detail, planning, organizing, controlling your emotions, that these behaviors contribute almost 25, sometimes even more, percent, that is 25% of success. When children begin to leave school, we teach them not more knowledge, but how to take college tests, how to take employment tests. Knowing how to do what you need to do is a critical key for success in our society. This is what executive functioning is all about. Executive functioning is one phenomenon, how you do what you do, made up of all kinds of behaviors. And at Nesplora, we can measure those behaviors in a virtual environment.